don't. I'm just coming down to take a couple of pictures and then I'm leaving.
You guys?
Yeah, we walk. Yeah, go over with Justin so I can take a picture. Justin, go over with Karen. Justin? Yeah. Okay. No. Put it down. Or just hold it if you want and just... All right. That's right. 1, 2, 3, Justin. Go.
I got to take a picture of little Butchki. I see you.
I took one picture of the two boys, and then I wanted to take a...
Well, it is a special day. You make me happy when skies are gray.
Sorry.
It's all right, no problem.
Oh.
Hey guys, whoever wants to look at this picture, sure. Stand it.
Here.
You guys should get him a picture with TJ.
Yeah.
Go.
So we all will.
How are you? How are you? Okay, thanks. Wait. Okay. How are you? Good. I need some information from you, but I didn't get it yet. Okay. Karen, you want to take a picture with me?
Get in front of me. Go ahead.
Just need to...
Right over there. Go sit next to your Gabby.
Right there.
Stay there. No, it's
Everyone get a good shot. No. Good. Right there. Everybody look. Still. Justin, look. Okay. One more.
Stand still and look at the camera.
Guys, stand. Stay where you are, guys.
Yeah, we can't make it.
Stand back, guys. Jeremy, go back there. Go back.
Okay, and the name of the grandson that's going to speak.
Jeremy, give me a flag. Look, Jeremy, look at me.
And my husband brought it with you. I'll hold it if you would you? Yeah. Sure. Okay, happy birthday, dear.
Hi.
Carol, Samantha's here.
Yeah. All right. But we didn't know how to set up the empty seats because we didn't know who
Everybody around.
Yeah, that's what Barbara said. Yeah, let's see my...
Honey, we don't have chicken nuggets. So we can take
Can you do me any? Can you do it?
Come on, bud. Sit right here. Hey, well, I'll move the salad away. Here, move the salad. Okay. There you go. Sure.
have all your attention, I'd like to recite the Friday night prayers. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kimanu v'higiyanu lazman hazeh. Blessed art thou, Lord, King of the universe, who has created the fruit on the vine. Now, if you hold on to your wine glasses, I'll say the next prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rodei v'hanofen.
Amen.
Blessed art thou, Lord, who createst the fruit on the vine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'notzavanu v'shabbat kodesh v'yavloch u'b'tzein hinchalonu zikrei b'masei precious Ilu yom tehila mikro zecher l'tzias nitzroy Imonu mo'ato Yasonu kinashta V'chol ha'amim Shabbos kodesh Ve'avol rotzon in chavtonu Baruch atah Adonai v'kadesh haShabbos. Amen. Blessed art thou, Lord, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with thy commandments, and has been pleased with us. Thou hast graciously given us thy holy Sabbath as a heritage in remembrance of the creation. The Sabbath is the first among the holy festivals which recall the exodus from Egypt. Indeed, thou hast chosen us to be light to all nations, and has graciously given us thy holy Sabbath as a heritage. Blessed art thou, O Lord, who hallowest the Sabbath. And now, if you join me with the prayer over the bread, and we'll say the prayer as we go along. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Motzi lechem min oretz.
Blessed art thou, Lord, who createst the bread from the earth. Shalom and good health to all.
How about you? No? Okay. Here. Oh, yeah? No.
Vivian, hi.
Say hello.
Hi, Mark.
I don't want you to look that one up.
Jeremy.
quarter of the thing that they normally was. One.
What?
What grade were you in last year?
Look, the cake says happy 100th birthday. No, your pet.
Turn around. Look at your cake. Beautiful. Isn't that beautiful? For the girls, each of the table. Not of the girls, just the girls. Yeah. Table. Everybody's good.
All right, now, cheese.
No, I have. I really made it. I shouldn't have done that. Come back to me. I made a big mistake. I don't want to look. I went, yeah. Oh, that was good. That was good.
Samantha. Samantha.
Let's see.
Samantha.
Okay, I'll push it in. I'll push it in. Ladies and gentlemen, could we please ask you... I don't understand. You can't take it. Let's start the program. Marilyn, do you have a seat?
What do you want, Butch?
I want mommy.
You want to go with Mommy?
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Once again, on behalf of Congregation 420, it is my pleasure to welcome. And now I'd like to call upon Steve Post, our administrator of the building, who will offer his congratulations. Steve?
This evening to the Jack Satter House. Morris really is an inspiration to all of us. He's not only celebrating his 100th birthday, but he's an active member of the Jack Satter House in every single way. Just 2 weeks ago he came up, he had a recommendation for me about how we could improve services in the building, so, which is great. And Tomorrow, Morris, I'm turning 50, so I want to talk to you afterwards because I want to know the secret to doubling that. So I'd like to get there. But once again, on behalf of all the staff, congratulations. We really love you.
You can stand up. He has 9 great-grandchildren.
Thank you. I don't know who got the impression we were going to speak briefly. I'd like to take the next 60 minutes to talk about I'm kidding. I'm going to be up here for 2 minutes. I wanted to start off with a little Bob Hoop witticism, I guess. Bob Hoop said, does anybody know how Bob Hoop said you know you're getting older? No. Bob Hope said you know you're getting older when the candles cost more than the cake. And you know what? I think that might have happened just a few years ago already for my grandfather. We're past that point. But maybe you don't measure age by the number of candles or the number of years. Maybe you should measure age from looking at a couple different columns of things. Maybe you have one column of things you've actually had to give up. And maybe you have one column of things you haven't given up yet. Right? So if you look at these 2 columns, as long as you have a good weighting there, you're not.
Mother of his grandson, I believe Eddie. Good.
Scott took all my time, so I'm going to try to be quick. It was actually about a 30-minute speech until my Uncle Ed told me it had to be clean. So now it's cut down to about 30 seconds. When I tell people around my home that my grandfather's turning 100, they tell me that's really an amazing thing that he's 100 years old. And I tell them, well, it's really not amazing that he's 100 years old. It's really amazing how he lived those 100 years. Because he's been one of the most consistent people that I've ever known in my life. From what he says to what he does. And as we all know, that's really the most important thing, because it's really not what you say, it's really what you do. And he's really been a consistent person throughout his entire life. He's taught everybody the importance of thinking of others before thinking of himself. And he's always been there to lend a helping hand or a helping ear. And somebody said before that he's full of recommendations. And just a little tidbit about my grandfather. He gave me a notebook once of all things I needed to do in my house. And every day during the year, I had the entire year filled with things I had to do, which ended up I couldn't work, and I couldn't take care of my family. I had to do things throughout the year for my house. But Grandpa, I still use that checklist, and it helps out a lot, so that was great. You know, people say that life is really insignificant except for the impact that you have on others. And it's pretty evident that Gigi, which is what we call Grandpa, his life's been very significant because he's had an enormous impact on not only myself, my parents, and Sheila and Ed, but also on our grandchildren, his great-grandchildren, or my children. My wife and my mother and my father always tell me I have the worst memory in the world, and it's probably correct. But it's amazing how vivid my memories are of the times that we went up to Elmira to visit my grandfather. And I remember going up there and him teaching us how to skip stones in the lake. Remember that, Grandpa? Skipping stones in the lake, relaxing on his screened-in porch in the backyard. The smell of burning leaves in that barrel in his backyard. I think everybody that's been up there can remember that. Going to Corning Glass every time we went up to visit Grandpa was always a great time. Grandpa taught me how to play Chinese checkers, which was a great time when we went up to Elmira. But probably the best experience that we ever had up in Elmira, and I think Grandpa will agree with me, was eating at Curly's, right, Grandpa? Chicken at Curly's, one of the greatest times. Lastly, my grandfather is probably the greatest example of progressive love, because he kind of liked his children, and he kind of loved his grandchildren. But I've never seen anybody love their great-grandchildren more than my grandfather. I mean, he takes more pride and more love in seeing his great-grandchildren than anybody I've ever seen. But what's even more special is I think that we all love him as much, if not more, than he loves us. just want to say happy birthday, and we're excited to be here and to share your 100th birthday with you.
Here. This is something I just sort of penned. Morris Kaminsky, the man from the Saddle, who has reached 100 years because it truly does matter. He is a man respected and loved, God's gift to us from above, a husband, a father, a man of distinction, a gentleman always. This is absolutely no fiction. He's a man for all seasons, a mature man who has his own reasons, who propounds his position with feeling and expertise, whether it's during weekly current events or dinner, if you please. To know him is to admire him, the sensitive man who is a person from the old school. He is bright, compassionate, with laughter and stories. He's definitely no fool. We should all get to know him and take lessons from him. Appreciate life and enjoy each day that you earn. Happy 100th birthday to Morris the man. Thank you for being you. Enjoy it to the fullest this century of happy birthdays. First, I want to say how really honored I feel to participate in this program. He is a gentleman who is respected and loved and honored by all of us here at the George Sala House. Now, the poem that I'm about to read about Morris was written actually by Barney Goldberg. Where are you, Barney? Stand up so they can see the poet. He wrote it to be sung to the tune of Edelweiss. I won't sing it, but I will read it to you. This is the poem in honor of Morris that was written by Barney Goldberg. Morris K., Morris K., every evening you greet us. At the show or in the hall, you look happy to meet us. Century young and a witty tongue, we're delighted you're with us. Happy you'll be and happy to know you helped the show grow. Morris K., Morris K., please stay for 100 plus. Thank you.
I think you'll find something. You only have 6 pages in front of you. So I guess you did find something, right? Okay. But I've got a few words together, and we'll see how it comes over when you listen to it. Before I do that, though, I've got to tell you about an incident that happened here at the Satter House. Not far from me, a man came in. He got an apartment here, and they put him out at a table with a lot of singing people. Right opposite him was a nice young woman. Well, of course, they got to talking, and they found out that they both came from Chelsea. And not just Chelsea, but they had lived around the corner from each other and never known each other. Well, the conversation kept going and going, and he was really getting a good feeling for her. So before he left for the evening, he said, Mildred, is there a Mildred here? Mildred, would you marry me? Well, Chief, that was really a strange question. But without hesitation, she says, of course. So they exchanged telephone numbers, and they went up to their respective rooms. And the next morning, about 7 in the morning, he calls up, gets her on the phone, said, Mildred, did I ask you to marry me last night? She says, who is it, Sam? No. Is it Isidore? No. Frank? No. Well, at any rate, yeah, I said yes. That's my story. Get them together, put them in a understandable form. And I started with the year of 80. From the year 80, I started counting my years. And you listen to it and have your own opinion about it. Today, dear Lord, I am 80, and so much I haven't done. I hope, dear Lord, you'll let me live till I'm 81. But then if I haven't finished all that I want to do, would you let me stay a while until I'm 82? So many places I want to go, so many places I want to see. Do you think you can manage to make it 83? The world is changing fast. There was so much in store. I would like very much to live until I'm 84. And if by then I'm still alive, I would like to stay until 85. Then if I get the chance to pick and see what happens to the world, I would like to live to 86. And it might be nice in heaven, but really, I would like to stay until I'm 87. I know by then I won't be fast, and also sometimes very late, but it would be pleasant to be around at 88. I would have seen so many things and had a wonderful time, but you know, I will have a lot of life in me even when I'm 89. Of course. '90, '91, '92 have gone so fast, I thought for sure it would not last. And now at 93, and still having fun, thank you, Lord, for what you have done. How lucky I am to have gotten more. Surprise of surprises, I have reached 94. I was still in there swinging and kept alive. Hooray, I have reached 95. Will this be the end, or are there plans ahead for the Lord to keep me going till I reach 96 instead? You did it again. I have reached 96. If I'm not in any rush to get to heaven, so please, Lord, wait till I'm 97. And sure enough, I was kept going, and I did reach 97. Do I dare hope there is 98 in store for me? Or am I reaching too far for me to see? I thought for a while, my dear wife Ada, I was going to join you, but I received a reprieve, and the Lord kept me going. For how long this will last, there is no way of knowing. I want to thank all you nice people for being here at this occasion, particularly a once-in-a-lifetime event. It is most enjoyable to be able to share this with friends and relatives. They say the first 100 years are the hardest, therefore the second should go a lot easier. I wish for you all to reach this goal. Dear God, give them all the same lightning time in their lives. get your money's worth, so I'm going to give you more. They say there is much in faith. I do believe it, since I have reached 98. Dear Lord, show me a sign, and I will wait for 99. I thank you, Lord, for having shown the sign now that I have reached year 99. You carried me to 100, and so I am not asking more. As time passes on, I will see what's in store. Blessed art thou, Lord, for granting me a long and pleasant life.
Before we conclude our program, I'd like to call upon our spiritual leader, Asha Zemansky, who will give the word.
Before I make the invocation, a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, if you want your blood pressure to go up a little bit, get involved with Morris in a debate. That's number one. Another thing, Morris, you always have to tell me, or ask me, show me where it says so. Well, I got a question for you. Although I believe that you're 100, show me a birth certificate. A fellow was selling his house and showing it to a prospective buyer. And he took him through the rooms. This is the kitchen, this is the dining room, this is the library, and so forth. And the buyer said, "What is that bag on the shelf?" And the seller said, "That belongs to me, that does not go with the house." He said, "Well, what is it?" He says, "That is my bag of marbles. I want you to know I'll never lose it." That is Morris. He has not lost his marbles. Okay, I put my 2 cents in. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kimonu v'yigyonu azman zeh. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, who has sustained us to celebrate this momentous occasion, the 100th birthday of Morris Kaminsky. May we all be here to celebrate his 120th. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Am I in your way?
No, no, no. And it's me.
another party. That's it. That's all. Right?
Otherwise, that's the issue we get, yeah. Yeah, I couldn't see you. Where were you? Where were you?
I run her in the morning.
Good, you were around. It's a good you were around. Thank you. Morris. Happy. Thank you.
And everybody loves it. They all got a kick out of it. Terrific. They did wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love the poem. Every day you read it. It's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. But your grandson said was so beautiful, both of them.
Full of lights. Full of lights.
Nice, so nice. It's just really, it makes so many friends here. It's like, is there anybody here you don't know?
I say it's the most comfortable place for anybody that's single, retired, empty, and better.
You know what?
Like that.
It's so beautiful across the street, the ocean. There.
Well, I would just answer all that. I mean, you mingle with them here. And they continue to smile.
This year he stopped. Oh, I didn't even know that.
Well, there's every hotel.
Ed, I'm saving money. She's not talking.
Wait a minute, I can't get any camera working.
Pastry trays open.
Very different about boys and girls. Maybe you should come over. Hi, boys. Yeah, anytime. Just let me know. Anytime. We're always ready for a party. Shabbos.
I'll clean you You're loving that cake. They're eyes, you know, and maybe we can fix it so we can do Jack. We went to Expo.
And here it is.
All right.
Keep it going. It was nice meeting you. I hear Dad used to stop at your house all the time. What, about 5 years?
Only because maybe they'll be able to party.
You guys didn't like it? Was it long?
We never liked it. I think it's less than that. I'm trying to think what year. I think
I know I was living
4 years.
there.
4 years. Family, Bobby and George are coming.
They're coming tomorrow?
They will.
Preston, I'll help you. What do you want?
No,
Very good, thank you, sir.
there's only one flash.
That's all right. That doesn't seem to work all the time.
It's a half. Yeah, thank you very much. You mean it works even with one flash?
And there's not even a flash.
Right.
And I have 7.
So you record the sound too? We'll have you. So you have 7 years to write it.
You're on too.
Have 7 years.
And you
to
got
write
$10 extra for a speaking part.
it. So you'll work on it for 10 years.
It was wonderful. What a beautiful evening.
I hope you do. I hope I would ask the good Lord to give all each other down here the same kind of longevity that I have. That's what I say.
And there'd be no room in the world if everybody was
There's plenty of room, the way that, yeah.
So they'll both turn 90 in 2 years, and we should do a big celebration.
Big joint birthday
Yeah,
party.
and it's 180, so they got you beat. Who could be 180? Same day. Isn't that amazing? Same day. They both were born in Boston. 1916, December 19th. Chelsea. He was born in Chelsea. She was born in Boston, the West End. And they know each other. They're friendly. They came up one day.
That's how I got that story. Chelsea tells the man who so much all at one time.
Everything together. Because you know what? I don't know what tomorrow will be.
Yeah, that's right.
I gotta push everything in one day. I'm the one, you know, when you see me in the movie and you're sitting in front of me, what are we gonna do then? We gotta talk about it, don't we?
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're a sweet guy. Take care and be well.
This is me.
Are you the one that takes them to the playhouse at Belleville?
Wish all the
Well, I met him last
Be
year.
well and stay with us for
My
another
daughter
100
told me,
years.
and
Okay?
his daughter took him, and we're both walking up the ramp to the playhouse in Beverly, the North Shore. Right, Morris? You saw me with my Eileen, and I saw you with your daughter going to the playhouse.
Yeah.
What did you see? What did we see last year, Morris? It was last year.
You know, they just had a fire.
Yeah, they just had a fire.
They did?
Canceled everything.
And I got a ticket.
Really? The rest of the season's over?
They had
Because they still have tickets.
Yeah, they had a fire.
Picture. Don't you leave before I get your picture. I've had you every year for 8 or 9, 10 years, whatever.
Listen.
Don't you leave before I get your
Go to
picture.
Morris's thing Friday night, the owner. Do you think they might consider coming? And he said, who told you? And I said, what are you talking about? He said, I made all the arrangements a week ago. I can't keep up with them. He was coming.
Very proud. But next year celebration.
I want to know one thing. Have you got your birth certificate? Huh? You got your birth certificate?
No.
So how do you know you're 100?
I'm not saying I'm the others are saying I'm quiet.
He's probably 75.
I'm quiet.
Are you sure that you're not giving us the business?
I could be giving you.
All I have to say is proof.
No. Don't you guys involved in something about the Supreme Court or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had to go to the internet today and get all the information.
Now, I went yesterday,
Yeah?
and I got the information. Did he tell you what the Supreme Court said?
No, you tell me.
About what?
Okay. to go up there with it?
No, I got him. I have. Lori, what do you want me to zoom in on? Oh, pick it up again. Barrett. This is the easier way back this way.
Well, they don't like to do easy.
Oh, okay. Nice calm day, beautiful weather. Sun is out, the sea is calm, and the kids just had a lot of fun just climbing on the rocks. You're on Channel 7 tonight.
Oh, good. Jeremy, right there.
Turn to Poppy. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Yeah. And this little one, he just keeps prancing around. Where's Justin?
Not there.
Oh, I couldn't have got there. Birthday, but we are here at the porthole to have a gathering of the clan. Everybody's going to be here.
You know, we were thought you were going to...
We got the man of the hour.
Yeah, like that.
No, Gary and Joey. I said they started about a... That's exactly... No, there was no obligation, but we just...
No, but I'm saying, let's go all the way around, we're 100 years old.
100 years
That's
old.
amazing.
How could they be 100 years old
Happy.
already?
Well, actually, it's a couple more days till it's 100. Actually.
Right. Tuesday he'll be 100. No touching, Garrett. Leave it alone.
Yes, I did.
Look at this cake.
I see that. That is a pretty awesome cake, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yay! Right, okay.
I'm welcome.
All right. Did you get yours? Down the wall. What do you think? I kind of like that idea.
Sounds good.
Everybody else sounds
Stand there again and let me take your picture with you. Okay, that's good. That's wonderful. Thank you.
I want to be 100 too. My friends took me on.
You know,
Okay, well,
you know what I'm doing? I'm switching families.
we really have the longevity.
You know, they say the best way to live to 100 is to pick your grandparents very carefully.
Oh, so you're switching families.
I'm switching families.
Yeah, you know
Why
what?
should I stick with my
Even though
family?
you're related to our grandparents, I don't know. I think we should
Get
switch
close to
them.
what's more. I know I'm taking
All
one.
right, well, that's the way to do it. All right, thank you. But I tell everybody about you being 100. They're like, well, you're going to live forever, Penny. I'm like, you know, I think you're right. I think you're right. You look great.
Very good outside.
Oh, please, so good to see you. Oh, please. That's right.
In our family, the one.
Michelle is here with us, my good friend. Remember Michelle? Let me take you one talking about you. Do you remember? Okay. Do you remember when we went to Eleanor's apartment? My mother was around and we sat and we reminisced. We should have had a tape recorder. No.
Became the head counselor. You won't remember this. He's a good guy and a bad guy. He's the director.
Scott, want to have a drink?
Not yet. I'm going to try and see if I can get them to figure this. Thank you. Not related to
the Last Supper, Nancy.
It might be the last.
Don't say that.
You know something? Wait a minute. You know, oh yeah. You are That's your idea. But you want to know something?
How are you?
Who is this lovely lady you with?
Let us in on what was
I saw your name in the newspaper. Nice to see you here. I'm good. I'm good, Dad. Thank you. You too. How are you? What, honey? You go see Samantha if you want to go see Samantha. There's another cousin. This is Molly. Hi, how are you?
What?
And her name is Tina. This is Lauren. Hi. That's one of my little Jeremy.
David, you did bring her. We'll get one more chair.
Okay, yeah, no. I was just a late night not thinking. Right. How are you doing?
Wait. Oh, right there.
Oh, I got it in the back. I got
Rich. Not right now, thank you.
That's right. That's right.
And I see you've got something on the back as well. Oh, it's another 100 on the back. You're very decked out. That's right. That's right. Good. Good. Well, we're thrilled to be here with you. Who is it?
Over there, yeah.
No sound.
I used to play with Dina, you know that?
Are you finished? All right, give Poppy the plate.
Good. All right, well, it's going to be short, hopefully sweet. I just can't believe the day is here finally. We started talking about this get-together last July when he turned 99. We got through with the 99th party and we said, okay, what are we going to do for your 100th? And he said, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be here and I don't want anything and not a big deal, it's just another year. But for the whole year, we have been talking and planning and planning and talking, and it's finally here. And I thank each and every one of you for coming to share this with us because it doesn't get much more special than this. So thank you. This is really going to be short, but Dad, I am just so happy that all of us could be here and share this wonderful day with you. Happy birthday. We love you. Of descending age, Evan, Samantha, Lexi and Gabby. I'm trying to think who comes from. Justin. Garrett, Clara, Jeremy, and Vivian. Did I miss any of you guys? Okay. Okay, guys, all together.
Monique.
Don't forget that. Okay, are we ready? Okay, ready? This is the song that their Gigi has been singing to them virtually from the day they came home from the hospital.
Thank you.
Oh, now what?
Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehecheyanu, V'kimanu, V'higiyanu, Lazman hazeh. Blessed art thou, Lord, who has kept us alive and sustained us and brought us all together here today.
Never know what to say, but happy to be here today.
That's good.
That's it. Delighted to see everybody and to share this wonderful symphony. I'm a man of a few words.
I'm with you. Say for both of us.
But I'm glad to be at the man of the century table.
And I echo that.
So, what are you going to say for yourself?
I hope we've inherited the same wonderful genes, and I'm thrilled being here. Another uncle?
Unfortunately,
But
We have to wait.
I called him on my aunt, his wife, and I wrote, yes.
At the end, you're the
We
last.
corresponded, we exchanged pictures, and yeah, right.
Make them pay admission.
Ed and I are going to hook up a computer in just a minute. We're going to do a little tag team of back and forth and just talk about some memories that we had and then have a little fun as well. A little bit at my grandfather's expense. So, he's walking out. So two things happened in 1905, right? I guess two milestone events for humankind. I think the first, we know, we're here to celebrate, right? The birth of Morris Kaminsky. And the second was some fellow named Einstein came up with this theory of relativity in 1905 as well. And you might ask yourself, what is the difference between Einstein's theory of relativity and my grandfather? Well, I have to say, there is a difference, because while my grandfather's logic only confuses me some of the time, Einstein's theory of relativity, and I read it again yesterday trying to figure out what it is, no dice. It confuses me all of the time. But I joke when I say that my grandfather's logic confuses me, because actually, I think he's really quite a straight read. You know, honest man, very honest man, always hardworking, caring, reliable, a lot of qualities that I think everybody could certainly admire. And I have a lot of great memories as I go back all the way back through my childhood and think about going to Elmira. I remember Harris Hill, right? Of course, Harris Hill with the mini golf and the picnics we'd have, and of course watching all the gliders take off. Anybody that's been to Elmira has probably been to Harris Hill. And I remember, and Eddie mentioned it last night, that I still remember the smell of the burning leaves in the backyard. You know, he would burn these leaves in this big tin or metal garbage can, and I still remember that. It's kind of etched in my mind. And I remember stopping Elmira not just when I was a child, but as I got older, and I was living in Michigan for a couple of years, and every time I'd come back to Boston, I'd spend a night in Elmira with my grandfather. And the last time I did that, I was actually moving Monique back from Chicago. We were driving a big U-Haul, and we were going from Chicago back to Boston. And we stopped in Elmira overnight. I think Monique said she had just met him maybe a month before or something like that, recently before. So we stopped in Elmira, and we first thing we did was we went out. Elmira is also the birthplace of Mark Twain. I don't know if people knew that. So Grandpa told us about this great play that they had there that talked about his childhood, Mark Twain's youth. So we went to this gymnasium that was about, I don't know, about 94 degrees or something like that, this high school gym. And we climbed way up in the bleachers, and remember, Grandpa was young, he was 90 years old when this happened. Climbed way up in the bleachers. We all sat in these horribly uncomfortable bleachers with no back or anything. I mean, for like 2 hours. It was brutal for Monique and I can just imagine for my grandfather. But it was okay again, because I say he was 90. And after that, we went out to dinner. We went to his favorite place, which was Ponderosa. So we went out to dinner, and we had a nice dinner at Ponderosa. I think that might have been Monique's first Ponderosa experience. It wasn't, not at all. Okay, well, whatever. We went to Ponderosa, and when we left, we were driving. Grandpa was probably driving in his car, or one of us was driving, and he saw this woman crossing the parking lot, and he said, "Oh, there's Jane or Sue or whatever her name was," and he said, "She's a really nice woman. Not the best looking woman in the world, but really nice." And Monique and I were just sort of taken back, but like I said, I'm thankful. Like I said, he was, honest, if nothing else. Very honest, right? So when I tell people that my grandfather's turning 100, they usually have two questions, or two things that they say. The first is they say, does he have all his marbles? And I always laugh, because it's a reasonable question, but of course he has all his marbles, right? I mean, if he didn't, he wouldn't debate us all on politics constantly around the dinner table. The CEOs make too much money as well, going back to that salary cap. And he wouldn't call up Monique and make sure when she has a cold that she should be staying inside, and that if it's only 30 degrees out, that we should make sure that we dress the girls warmly if we're going to ever take them outside. I mean, he still does these caring, wonderful calls. And of course, he still has his wits about him, because he's been timed at this. In 1.2 seconds, he can tell the alcohol content of a bottle of scotch. That's quite The other thing, so people ask if they have his marbles, and of course he does. And the other thing people say is, can you imagine how much change he's seen from 1905? And Eddie and I have become a bit of history buffs in this last thing. We were testing each other on 1905 knowledge, because we certainly both Googled it, trying to figure out, how we can relate this stuff. So one quick fact, and this is an interesting one. Here's the amount of change you've seen. In 1905, the British Empire ruled over 500 million people. And today the British Empire rules over 200,000 people, a third of which live in Bermuda. So that's a massive, massive change in that time. What's that? And my birthplace. That's my birthplace. And he's seen a lot of great inventions, right? In 1905, there were great inventions. Morse and the theory of relativity. 1925, high-tech things like spiral-bound notebooks were invented in 1925. 1955, an institution, McDonald's, was founded. 1975, great year. Two great things, a laser printer and that little push-in tab when you get a can of Coke so you don't have to rip that thing off anymore. 1995, the DVD was invented. And here's one I just found. I don't have anything for 2005. Who knows what was invented then? But in 2004, there was some invention where with sonar waves, we can now deliver medication through the skin without an injection. So a few years before I think we all see them. So we're going to have some fun in a minute. I just want to close my part by saying what I'm thankful for about my grandfather. So I'm thankful, Grandpa, for your health and mind. I'm thankful for the fact that you moved to Massachusetts, as Stephanie mentioned, several years ago, and we've gotten to know you even better. I'm thankful for the fact that you've been able to have such a great relationship and really get to know my wife and especially my children, unheard of, for all of our kids to grow up and really know their great-grandfather. Thankful that that my children, when they hear that they're going to go see their Gigi, there's still a big yay from the back seat. I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful that we've all been able to come here and celebrate your 100th birthday. So I wanted to raise a glass. I only had a glass. I wanted to raise a glass. Here's a glass. I wanted to raise a glass and say that, Grandpa, or excuse, if your intent is to live forever, so far, so good.
Very good.
God promised me he wouldn't change his speech after last night. I thought I had to put it up on him, but obviously I don't now. Very nice. When I tell people at home that my grandfather's having his 100th birthday, they look at me and they think it's really amazing. But the real amazing thing, and I tell them back, is how he's lived those 100 years. My grandfather's been probably the most consistent person that I've ever known, between his words and his actions. He's taught everybody around him the importance of thinking of others first, rather than himself. And he's always been there to lend a helping hand or an ear. And I think most of you that have been around him and have talked with him know all the types of recommendations that Grandpa gives. I just want to give kind of one example. Has anybody ever been given from Grandpa the notebook of things to do in the house, month by month? Okay. He gave me that, Grandpa, I think it was when I bought my first house, maybe 13 years ago. literally, it's a notebook about this thick, and it's got things to do literally every day of the year. So I had to make a choice. Was I going to get a job and work and support the family, or was I going to follow this checklist? And I apologize, but I needed to make some money. But I still do follow some of the information on the checklist, so it's helped. But he's also taught us a lot the importance of taking care of ourselves as well. As you can see, being 100 years old, he is taking care of himself, and I think he's got a lot of those recommendations that he can pass on to us. I think the first one is drink lots of whiskey and scotch. I think that's the first recommendation that he's made. That's probably not the most conventional health drink, but it's proven that it works, obviously. The second is exercising. And I remember when I used to go up to Elmira and I used to see Grandpa doing these type of exercises, self-resistance, and I used to look at him and go, what are you doing? And I think, what are they called, Grandpa? Plyometrics? Some isometrics? Isometrics. And it's amazing because if anybody wants to get close to him, he's 100 years old, and he still has his muscle tone to him from these isometrics. So that's the second recommendation. And the third and probably most important thing that I've learned from my grandfather is exercise your mind. I know a lot of people have been talking about debating and all of that, but he's exercised his mind since probably the day he was born from my guess. And I think that's the third way that Grandpa's been able to stay so healthy throughout his life. A wise man once said that life is insignificant except for the impact that you have on others. Well, I think it's evident that Gigi's life has been very significant to this point, and he's had such a tremendous impact on all of us here. You know, my wife and my mother and my father actually tell me that I've got a pretty poor memory. However, some of my most vivid childhood memories go back to my visits up to Elmira to visit my grandparents. And Scott took one of them, which was the smell of the burning leaves in the back. I'll get you on that one. But I remember when Grandpa used to take us to the lake and teach us how to skip stones. And I forget what lake it was called, but it was a great time. Again, relaxing on the screened-in porch up in Elmira was a great time. Going to Corning Glass every time we visited them. Literally every year we went up to visit Grandpa, we went to Corning Glass. How about has anybody, who's been to Elmira when Grandpa was living up there? He had a tree in the backyard, and these little things used to fall off it. And we used to snap them apart and open them and put them on our nose. Does anybody ever remember that? That was a great memory. Grandpa taught me how to play Chinese checkers, which I still do today. And really the two best memories that I have up in Elmira. The first one is eating at Curly's. And that was one of the greatest places to eat in Elmira. And I remember I went up there when I first got a job in public accounting, and I was working in Corning, actually. They asked me where I wanted to be stationed, and I could only remember Corning. So they stationed me up there. And I thought I was a big shot. I finally had a job, and I wanted to take Grandma and Grandpa out to Curly, so I went to eat. And the bill comes, and I give the waitress, what? My credit card. And she goes, I'm sorry, son, but we don't take credit cards. Well, don't you know, being young, I didn't have any cash on me. So I literally had to leave him in the restaurant, take my card to the nearest ATM, get cash, come back and pay for it. And probably the neatest thing that I thought when I was a little kid was that darn laundry chute that my grandfather built in his house. From the second floor down to the basement, he just lift this little trap door, throw your laundry down, and it went all the way right down to the washer and dryer. It was pretty neat. Lastly, I just wanted to say that Gigi's probably the best example that I know of what I call progressive love. And what progressive love means is Grandpa, he kind of loved his children, kind of. And he sort of loved his grandchildren. But he's absolutely head over heels about his great-grandchildren. And I've never seen somebody love his great-grandchildren as much as my grandfather, so it's great to see. And the ironic part is, no matter how much he loves all of us, we love him even more. So happy birthday, Grandpa.
It should be. It should be.
All right, so I'm going to go first on this one as well, luckily, because I've seen what Eddie has, and So I'm glad I get to go first and not right after that. So we're going to have a short quiz along with prizes, baseball game, and he's going to throw peanuts out at everybody. He's going to throw our prizes out at everybody. Most of them are courtesy of my current employer too. So you can thank the Gillette company for the free product that we're all going to hand out. So let's see, how are we going to start this? All right, so the first question. Oh, and by the way, you'll get this just by being the first person to yell out the answer. Okay? So the first question is, who was the president when Morris was born? Was it William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, or George Washington?
George Washington!
Anybody say Theodore Roosevelt? Oh, over here, okay. Get a product over here. That's right, Theodore Roosevelt. There we go. There's 10 questions. If this starts to drag, just hold on. There's only 10 questions. The next one was, who was Morris's favorite president? Was it Dwight Eisenhower? Was it Harry Truman? Wow, got it before we even finished this. Or was it Bill Clinton?
Harry Truman.
It is Harry Truman. Indeed, it is Harry Truman. Hard to believe after all the Bill Clinton stories we've had to endure that it is Harry Truman. You're not eligible. You've seen the quiz already.
I know I have.
Hey, I don't want. This is a nice razor, so you may want to get this one.
Who is Morris's least favorite president? Was it, or is it, George W. Bush, or is it George H.W. Bush? That's right, it's both. Both his least favorite presidents. Over here, Howie, don't throw it to Howie. Okay, number 4, what else was invented? I guess if we say Morris was invented in 1905, what else was invented in 1905? Was it windshield wipers, tea bags, or cornflakes? You're all wrong, you're all wrong.
Windshield wipers.
Windshield wipers, thank you, somebody. Tea bags and cornflakes were like 1904, 1906, something like that. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. What was born first? Was it Morris, the telephone answering machine, or comic books?
Wrong. Comic books.
And the answer is the telephone answering machine. I know, hard to believe. We were debating whether my source was right on this one too. That's gonna keep the prize since nobody got it. The next one was, how much would you have to pay Morris to go to New York City for the weekend? Is it $100? $1 million? Or you wouldn't have to pay him because he would just never go?
He would never go.
No, it's you wouldn't have to pay him. He would never step foot in New York City again. Somebody in the back there. Scott. I know.
You guys can get prizes later. Yes, sir.
All right. All right, now here is kind of a similar question. How much scotch would you have to give him to go to New York City for the weekend? Is it, you guys aren't on, is it one shot? Is it one bottle? Yeah, you don't need that. Is it one case?
One case.
Sorry, this is a trick question. It all depends on how good the scotch is. Sorry about that, guys. All right, and what is Morris's favorite food? Is it anything at the Satter House? Is it Blintz's? Pad Thai? Or who cares? Where's the scotch? Anyone? Pad Thai. Somebody's happy over there. David's happy, so David must
What
be
is
on
the Satter House?
That's where he lives.
Oh, that's all.
And then who is Morris's favorite player in the Red Sox? And these, yeah, well, I'll just read the answers and you can decide which one it was. The who? I thought you said the last question was the last question, Scott. To tell you the truth, I just couldn't name any. What's the right answer of these 3? Does anybody want to say it was all 3 of these? All 3 of these, after I repeated the question a couple times. And then this is the last question. This may be the hardest question. Great-grandchildren cannot vote. Great-grandchildren cannot vote, I'm sorry. Who is Morris's? Oh, by the way, this one, we have a prize for this one. It's a check. It's made out, it's from me. It's made out for $1 million. Okay? This is a big one. You can feel free to cash this if you want to take this to your local bank. Let's see what the answer is. Oh wait, did anybody have a vote out there besides the
What's
grandchildren?
the question?
Who is Morris's favorite drinker? Oh, it's Vivian! No, wait.
That's you.
I'm not sure. Oh, actually, it's Gabby and Lexi. No, Gabby and Lexi are saying no, so it must be all. All right. We're done. That was the first
Who's
round.
your dad? Who's your daddy?
Okay. Hello? As we've seen, sorry, am I hurting your ears? As we've seen, this is all about history. This 100 years worth of history that we're talking about here. For those of you that are history buffs, to further expand on the 1905 theory, 1905, believe it or not, the Mata Hari debuted in Paris. Anybody a big gambler out there? Big gambler? Las Vegas was founded in 1905. About 110 acres were auctioned off in 1905. Another little known fact, Novocaine was introduced in 1905. Imagine going to the dentist if 1905 never happened. Other birthdays in 1905, Greta Garbo, Grandpa, Greta Garbo, Howard Hughes, they were all born in 1905. But that's enough about generic history. What we really want to understand is what impact did Grandpa have in the last 100 years in American history? And it was a very difficult thing to start researching, but fortunately, I have a friend in the CIA, and believe it or not, the CIA has special software. You can actually input a picture, and through facial recognition, the CIA software will scan all of the databases throughout the world, even the unknown databases throughout the world, and get all the different pictures with that person's face on it. And that's what we ended up doing, because I couldn't really find anything that Grandpa had to do with American history, but he's told me he's been a very integral part of it. So fortunately, we've been able to break this up into, to begin with, events in history. And we started off slowly because the database was pretty slow, so. Yeah, just broke.
Oh, no.
Just broke? No, it's okay. Yep. Little do you know that Grandpa actually starred in the first Harry Potter movie. Things that he doesn't want people to know, yet we do. These are straight from the CIA database. Little did you know that Neil Armstrong, everybody here of Neil Armstrong?
Yeah.
Well, Grandpa was Neil's buddy. Now, they kept him in the background, but we caught this through the database. Grandpa was actually the second person on the moon. We don't limit Grandpa to these immaterial events in history. But Grandpa is really, pretty artsy. So when Gone with the Wind debuted, Grandpa was actually involved in that debut. It was 1939. Now, Uncle Ed showed a couple pictures of Grandpa in the glider, but that really wasn't the first time that Grandpa was involved in with aircrafts. Little did anybody know that in 1927, Grandpa and the Spirit of St. Louis. Little known facts. Now, anybody that ever said that Grandpa's a wimp?
has no idea what Grandpa has gone through in his life, okay? Because he's, excuse me, girls, he's a badass, okay? World War I, the French underground, okay? Now this may look like a cane he's holding, but this is more of a James Bondish type of automatic rifle. And everybody understands that Grandpa, he loves automobiles, cars, buses, whatever, okay? A lot of people just think that he worked on them and he was around them, but little did we know that him and Henry Ford actually invented the Model T. Now, what would be complete? These are mere immaterial events in history. One of Grandpa's favorite topics is politics, correct? Well, Grandpa's been involved in American politics for years and years and years. Even before we even thought he knew what politics were, he was involved. Take a look. Actually, I missed the transition slide here. I worked on this for about 15 minutes. Politics, Grandpa. Richard Nixon's inaugural. 1969. Dates back even further than that. 1961. Who's inaugural? Kennedy, right?
Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy. Anybody see Grandpa in this? It took me 3 weeks to find Grandpa in this. Sam, there he is. Watch. All the way up there in the left-hand corner. Now we're all laughing. Now the CIA software is so amazing that I don't know how they actually got this next picture because I could hardly see Grandpa in this picture. But this is Eisenhower. You know what year that was? 53. You get another prize? Something? This is Eisenhower's inaugural. I don't know, can anybody see Grandpa in there? Yeah? 1953. Could it possibly go back any further? I mean, did he even know how to spell politics before then? Well, it does. Last one is 1933. Who's inaugural? FDR. And Grandpa was there. This just goes to show you that we don't always know people as well as we think we know them. Before today, we thought Grandpa just kind of moseyed on through the last 100 years. But in reality, and I think the Harry Potter one's probably the most important one out of the whole thing, he's been involved in many, many important events throughout history. My backpack. Oh, here it is. And Grandpa, lastly, we talked about 1905. We've told a little bit of information about it. Have you ever had a lucky coin? I don't want to ask you if you won a lucky coin, because if you say no, it's going to crush me, but we were able to find a 1905 Indian head penny to be your lucky coin. Thanks. Happy birthday, Grandpa.
Niece. Where are his grandnieces? Mom, right there. Where are his grandnieces? It's Muriel, Sari, myself, our husbands, our family. So,
Okay, it was 1905, July 19th, Morris arrived. Clan Kaminsky was growing fast, and Morris wouldn't be last. At home with George and Rose, next, Eleanor arose. Esther cried, "That's enough!" And David just wasn't that tough. Williamsburg was the place where Morris entered the race. Here he grew and grew, at least until 22. The Rosenthals had a Seder, and that's where Morris met Ada. She was a cutie, he felt more than a duty, and off they made to Elmira. Motor vehicles Morris inspected, nothing went undetected. When you rode the bus, You placed your trust in the confidence Morris projected.
There, 100 years. That's Morris today. Love, laughter, and joy, the key to his life. So let's raise a glass, and here's our advice. Love and laugh in equal measures. Enjoy life, there's no greater treasure. Keep close family and friends, and in dreams, there's no end.
1905, and he said to Franklin, "How's that little Kaminsky baby doing?" And Franklin said, "Oh my God, I don't know whether he's going to pull through." And Teddy said, "We should live so long." Morris, we want to say congratulations to you. You've reached 100 years, which few people do. I know you're sitting there, and you would love to be 100, it would be nifty to be 150. And Edward, your son-in-law, said that if you do get that far, he's going to buy you a new car. He said, all you have to do, Morris, is sit back and pull out and pick out the color, red, white, or blue. Now, we also want to say that this has been a wonderful party. When you get the bill, just give it to Artie. This weekend has been so much fun. We can't wait till next year when you're 101. Oh, I have a lot more. Not really. Just look around, Morris, and see all your great-grandchildren, your grandchildren, your children.